Problem 12, 180. I think when they sweep and stuff, they keep just inching them forward. Here pretty soon they're going to be up against the wall here. I move them back every couple of days, but then they just move right back up here and I get tired of doing it. Somebody help me out. What do they got? Nobody can help me?
10 is 1.
They got 110.
1. Where's in this one?
Problem 12.
So 1, and then
One what?
for the 10, like there's like
110. So we got 110. How about your calculators? What else? 16 fives. So 7 times 1. $3.50. So 3 times 0.50. 12 times 0.25. 17 times 0.10. 13 times 0.05. 5 pennies. I'm just going to put 5 cents there. Okay. Somebody do me a favor. Calculators. I'm going to make this a quiz grade, shouldn't we? So everybody's paying attention. Simon's back here eating still instead of paying attention. Get your calculators out. Add all that up for me. You don't have your calculator out. You're not paying attention. That's what you didn't do. Well, never fear. Thank you. So add all that up. What are we doing when we add it up? Tyler's asking what's going on here. What do you got to do with that 16 before you start adding it all? Or you could punch it into your calculator all the way I have it up there and just put a plus in between each thing. Because you're multiplying first, right? Multiplying first, then adding. If you plug it into your calculator just like this, 10 plus 16 times 5 plus 7 times 1 plus, and hopefully when you get to something like this that I wrote down, 7 times 1, hopefully Lane's not so stupid that he actually punches in 7 times 1, because that's 2 extra buttons and his finger might fall off if he has to push those 2 extra buttons.
Is that 0.50? 3 times 0.50?
Say it again.
Is that 3 times 0.50?
Yeah, 3 times 0.50. They had 3 50-cent pieces. So what I was saying, probably shouldn't have recorded me calling Lane so stupid. That's probably going to get me in trouble.
We didn't say you were stupid. You hope he's not.
Right. But somehow those things always get turned around and get me in trouble. I can't see that. $103.90. Anybody else get that? Yes, no, maybe? Yes. Is that right? Now that's not our total. What else do we got to total in here?
Checks.
How many checks did they have? 168.14. What are we going to do with those two to get the total? Add them together. What's that give us?
$272.04.
$72.04. Now, the one thing that usually messes with everybody when you're doing deposits is less amount of cash. Did they have any cash on these? I don't think they did they? You've got to, because I know what's on the Chapter 4 test. So listen closely right now. Because I don't think there's anything like this one on the Chapter 4 test, just like this one. Because every one that I put on there said less cash, and then it gives you some amount out here. When you're saying less that cash, does that get added in?
No.
What you're doing is you're walking up to the bank with all this coins and everything else, giving it all to them, and then saying, oh yeah, and I need $50 back so that I can have spending money. Well, that's $50 isn't going to get added into this. It's going to get subtracted from it, if that was the case. Now, this is the answer to number 12, but if you did have that less money, it would get subtracted from it, right? So I guarantee when you look at that deposit slip on the next test, it's going to say that, and what's going to happen is a whole bunch of you are going to come up with something like this, and what did you do?
Subtract.
You didn't subtract, you added, all right? They're not going to give you back money and then add that amount of money back to your account. That doesn't make any sense. Got it? Some common sense here. That's like Matt having $5 in his pocket and he owes me $3, and all of a sudden now he's got $8 in his pocket. No, it doesn't work that way. All right? So you got to know when you're adding, when you're subtracting. Why would you do this? Why would you take them all this money and then take cash back?
You don't have to go to an ATM or something?
But you just gave them money. You could have just kept some of that, couldn't you?
Yeah, but that's inconvenient, especially when it's all like coins.
Right. So it could be inconvenience. Could be that you need to have a record of it. I know when I worked at the convenience stores, when I worked at them, and I would take in the money from the day before to the bank, and then I would ask them for money back so that we could have change in our safe to use all day long. You had to do it that way because you had to have that receipt showing I took in this amount of money, I brought back this amount of money, and this is what's now in the safe. So everything would balance. Otherwise, Ebersole might have got some sticky fingers every now and then and slipped a couple of tens in his pocket or something because he was broke that week and needed to buy some Pepsi. All right? But so you had to have the receipts from the bank saying, okay, Ebersole gave us this amount of money. Then they give you another receipt said he took back this amount of money. And it showed exactly, I took back. If you're getting change, if you work anywhere and they allow you to deal with some of the money and you got to drop it out of a safe or something to get change, I don't know. If West they ever let you do anything like that, or you got to call a manager to get change for.
I don't even call a manager. I do a cash drop every night by myself.
So see, that's.
I guess.
So you gotta. If you're dropping money out of the safe keeps track of what you dropped out. It used to be when I first started working at the convenience store, we actually had to write it down every time. Every time we do get cash to put in the cash register, every time we get like change, quarters or fives or whatever, you'd have to write it down. But they want that as a receipt so you can see it. Next question. Other questions? Everybody understands checks and stuff?
Yeah.
Huh? Writing a check, and I sort of went over this last time, but it's got two separate things. Probably should have just stuck this with last time, but since I wasn't going to be here, I didn't want to do that. Did you do this assignment last time?
Look.
Other people on your desk. Again, don't walk out with your test because I need them back. So make sure you keep them out. Don't lose them. Nathan's the only one that's got up and walked across the room, so your test should be right there with you somewhere. Not Nathan. Me. Noah.
My brother's name is Nathan.
That doesn't matter. I just. messed up. Colby, you better not get on my nerves back there. Yeah, not very long. Yeah, maybe. So a checking account. Checking account's just a deposit account held at a bank that gives you convenient access to your money. When I was growing up, banks would reward you for having a checking account through them. You know, there'd be certain things, especially like interest. You'd get interest on your money that you had in the checking account. That's not the case anymore. You're not going to find many checking accounts that have interest on them. Okay, it just doesn't happen. Now, when Caitlin gets out of school and she's got her own business and making millions of dollars a year, she might be able to have a checking account that has interest paid on it. Okay, so if you're some big wig special person, the bank wants your money in their account or in their bank, or wants your account in their bank, then they'll do special things for you. Now, they won't give you a whole lot of interest, usually. If a checking account does have interest, it might have maybe 0.25% or something. It doesn't have very much. Savings account, sort of the same thing now. If you find a savings account and it draws 3%, yes, it just disappeared. It draws 3%. You're really, really lucky. All right, most everything now has got to be in some kind of CD or something, and even CDs now don't draw very much money. A check, I showed you a check last time on the video and stuff. Check is just a paper document directing a bank to deduct money from your checking account and make a payment to the person named on the check. Now, most people don't, they just use your check card instead of using actual checks. You gotta be careful, and I talked about an ATM on the video last time and stuff. You got to be careful using an ATM and your check card all the time. They charge you for using it. Even though you don't ever see it, because you probably don't ever look at your statement and stuff, anytime you're using a check card, you get charged. And not only do you get charged, you probably get charged twice. Because wherever you use it at charges you a fee for using a check card. And then your bank charges you a fee for using your check card. So you got to be careful using it. My wife gets mad at me all the time because when it asks for like credit or debit, if you're using a check card, you need, and this is different for different banks. For our bank, I need to push credit every single time. Because then, if it's credit, I get charged a fee for wherever I'm at, whoever I'm paying, but the bank doesn't charge me a fee. So, I should do that every time. Well, the bad thing is, and some of you probably know this, when it pops up on the screen, a lot of the times you got to ask the cash register person that, what do I push for credit? Well, I don't do that, I don't wanna talk to them, so I just go on and put in my PIN number and go about my business. And my wife gets upset, cause then we get charged a fee for using that check card. Checks now, even though everybody hates checks now aren't near as bad as they used to be. You go into Walmart, and if I was to go in there and pay with one of these checks today, what do they do with the check?
Put it in the machine.
They put it right in the machine and it runs through, comes out, okays it, or does whatever. It's almost just like using your check card. All right, it runs out and they hand you the check right back. As a matter of fact, the machine will fill out the amount for you and everything at a lot of stores.
And then it'll put void over it.
All right, and then it'll put, so that you can't reuse it, it'll put void. So that's a good thing. Now, the bad thing is not every place has that. And then if you're standing behind somebody, like I went in the store over the weekend and I'm standing behind somebody, and number one, they were taking too long anyway, getting their stuff up on the belt to get everything. And I'm like, come on, man, I gotta get out of here. And then at the end, they go, how much is it? And then they pull out their checkbook and start writing it. The whole time they're standing there, they could have been writing the daggone check
And then just fill out the number.
and then fill out the numbers at the end. Nah, this woman had to wait till the very end and dig in her purse, find her checkbook, and then start writing it out. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So then I had to sit there and wait on that, and of course then she had to ask 6 times, how much was it? So a check, and of course everything at that point annoys me. So every little thing that she's doing is probably Quentin's grandma or something doing it, and that's why Quentin's giving me that dirty look back here. I know, if my grandma said you were buying her. So when you're filling out this check, and there's gonna be a few checks on here, one of the things that I'm gonna talk about here in a minute with the checks, there's a line that says, it used to say memo, now my checks say, what down there at the bottom?
0422.
No, that.
Don't read his check
Four.
number.
It tells you, it says what for.
Oops.
Because apparently, and this is another thing that bothers me, and I'll talk about this throughout the year, another thing that bothers me with our country is they think that the next generation, that's you guys, so stupid that you can't think things through. So instead of saying memo, now it's gotta say for, because they don't think that Noah could understand what memo meant, that he was supposed to write there. All right? Well, so,
Okay.
but is that something you could have learned?
Yeah.
So memo, if it says memo down there, memo just means what are you using the check for? It's just, memo means a note telling yourself so that when you get this check back, you remember, hey, I used this to pay this bill, whatever it was. That way, if Wes comes back on you a few days from now and says, hey, you never paid me that, and you got the canceled check back from the bank, you can say, I got the check right here, apparently you cashed it, because it's canceled.
We got the.
So, the other good things about checks is what I was just saying. Then you got some kind of hard copy. You don't have to go back through all the records. You got some kind of hard copy right there saying, hey, I paid this. And there's been many times when we used to pay all our bills with checks that we'd have to go back through our checks and say, I swear we paid that. And we'd find the check. And then we would send a copy of the check to whatever, and they'd say, oh yeah, we found it, after that.
So,
But
After they tried to scam you into giving you.
that's what it seemed like, but of course, you can't say that, oh no, that was just a mistake, and so you gotta make sure that now with everything being electronic now, hopefully you can find it electronically. If your name's Jack Ebersole, I have no clue how to do most of that stuff, and I get on there and you go into some bank's website, This checkbook right here, I have a website at the bank down there. They change the password once every 3 months or something. So I gotta get in there like every 3 months and change the password. And when I forget to do that, then it won't let me back in, because once you try to get in with the old password, it locks you out. And then you gotta call them to say, hey, I got locked out, and then you go through all this big headache. So you gotta make sure, and I finally, the other day, because for like a year, this is a bank down at Eaton, for like a year, nobody was allowed to walk into the bank. So finally, the other day, I walked in there and said, hey, how much is in this account, how much is in this account, and I wrote it down, and I'll just keep records of it. And I tried to get on their site again the other day, and
I figured out how to get in. I just had to type in my phone number and stuff, and they sent me a pin, but it's a stupid process for no reason. Shouldn't have to lock me out every week. It's Waffles in Richmond. Terrible.
and they do it all the time. It's like, oh, we're protecting you because we're making sure nobody steals your stuff. Well, if I can't get in, it doesn't do me any good.
Everybody else was like, that's cool with me, hopefully. And it happens every weekend. They lock me out every weekend.
I went over this on the video last time. I wouldn't write this down, just writing a check. Things you're going to do on writing a check, you're going to write the date on it. Make sure with the date, especially now, they were talking at the start of this past year, they were talking, make sure that you write the entire year down so that somebody doesn't get a check from you and then make it another year that's just a little ahead of it or something. So they didn't want you to just, or I guess this was actually for 2020, they didn't want you to just put 20 down because then somebody could just add on like another year, 2 years down the road or something and say, well, here, I just got this check from Alex. So make sure you're writing the complete date. It doesn't take that much longer. Write your name, or write the name of the person or organization. Write the amount of the check, and we're going to talk about this. Write the amount of the check in words. We did that earlier this year. Make a notation in the memo line, and again on mine, that's the first time I noticed that. It doesn't say memo anymore, it says for. And then make sure you sign the check, otherwise the check's no good, and then you gotta go through a whole big headache of that. So with the check, you're gonna put the date on it. What did we say today's date was, the 3rd?
Yes.
So you put the date on it, you're gonna pay it to the order of whatever it is. Please make sure you write it out completely.
Then you're gonna put your total amount in that little box.
Total amount in this little box. A lot of times, and I had to, when my mom was still around, I had to get on her about this. Don't start over here at the right. Start over here, all right? If you write something like this, it's not that I don't trust Carly, but I don't trust Carly. What could she do right there once I hand her that check?
She could go put it in.
Put something else in front of that. By the time I figure out that she got $525 out of my account,
She's going.
she's probably long down the road somewhere. All right?
What can we do about that? Still, nothing?
You hope
Dispute it.
you hope that your bank will somehow, if you're a good customer, you hope that your bank will reimburse you and understand it. But that's not always going to be the case. And if it's, if Carly was somebody like, let's say I bought something off eBay from her, and I don't have any idea where Carly's at, then it's up to me to get a lawyer and stuff and go try to search Carly out, and how much trouble would that be?
More money.
Too much for money.
Right, and so.
If it's like $500, I'll do it.
But see, for $500, then as soon as I walk in and talk to that lawyer, guess how much I'm paying them to try to.
It's $500.
So-
Carly's trying to make money.
Bro,
Wait, you don't have to worry about someone else
Found my
putting like
clear.
a number in front of those because you have to write out the amount down. on
That's
the
true. That's true. You got to write out this amount right here. But what do you think a bank or whoever's looking at this looks at first?
number.
And then you're hoping that they catch on to the fact that the two things are different. Does that mean they're going to? Right. It's their job. So you got Simon. He's working at the bank down there. And he's sitting there all day long. He's sitting there all day long looking at these checks. You think he's really going to check every single one every time? He's supposed to, but so we don't really want to take that chance if we don't have to. Write this out. You're just going to write it here in words. And it's going to be like 20. Will you answer that for me, Dave? Yes. Yes. 1 second. It's going to be 20. This time we're just going to go across here. And you got, ignore that. You got something like that.
Oh, these are like.
This is two.
Yes. Yes. Sure. Wes, I want you in the office. So you write it out in words there. Again, when you write it out in words, another thing, make sure that you fill in this space with that extra little line going across through there so that there's nothing else written in there. We don't want to leave that blank and then Carly all of a sudden write 20,000. I should have put 25. 25,000. She sticks in that one little word. Now all of a sudden we're really in trouble. Memo, whatever it was for. Something like pay for
Car battery.
car battery.
Yeah. Charge you $45,000 for car battery.
Again, this is supposed to be for you, but if the bank or whoever's doing their job and they look at this and it says pay for battery and it's written out for $25,000, hopefully somebody would catch on to that and see that, hey, something's not right here. Now, a lot of banks will call you if there's some kind of crazy transaction on your account. I know my bank would call me if somebody tried to draw $25,000 out of there because they'd say, yeah, Ebersole, when did you ever have $25,000? We know you did write a check for this. If you did, you're trying to get away with something. And then you just have to make sure you sign it. So make sure you sign it. Again, it's got to be, you got to make sure that everything's sort of tight in there. You don't want to leave spaces for anybody to mess you up if you're using a check. A lot of it, when you do go to Walmart or somewhere and they fill out the check for you, please look at it. Once they send that check through their little machine, make sure that you look at it to make sure it got filled out correctly. The assignment's on page 184. Should be able to get this done fairly easy, Dave, while you're in here. 3 through 21 and 25. 3 through 21 and 25. Should be able to make sure you get it done. Wes, I'll try to get your test graded here in a second.